Okay, good afternoon. Today is day 61 of little videos to describe a day and thought in the life of the schizophrenic Dominic. For the purposes of these videos, I play around with like calling myself a schizophrenic Dom, the schizo Dom. I think I'm gonna go with the schizophrenic Dom for now. Uh, I make these videos to describe sanity, express some sane thoughts amidst the world turning things around and saying that I was crazy when the world went insane on me. I am subject to the schizophrenic reality is a reality to be experienced. And on day 17 and day 45 of these little videos, which I have on my pinned threads and pinned Facebook posts on the comment sections, I describe in day 17 why I just choose to describe myself as a schizophrenic rather than targeted individual. And on day 45, I express in the intro, the first three and a half minutes, the intro to why I make these videos. And I have my book on medium.com. I write chapters there. I submit the chapters as I complete them on medium.com. And it's called Unveiling the Schizophrenic Tradition. You can find that on the bio section of Threads account and on the pinned post for Facebook. Okay. So, in this today, I was scrolling on Facebook, and because I talk about certain things like Star Wars, I think I bought a Star Wars shirt. I bought a Han Solo T-shirt because I don't know why I was deciding between Yoda and Han Solo, and I went back and forth, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll go with the Han Solo as a cooler shirt, and I went with that because when we go to Disney, I like to wear themed shirts because I'm wearing this Guardians of the Galaxy, which I bought. So I had a little extra money, so I bought a couple T-shirts. I needed some extra T-shirts, and I find that stuff fun. And so I'm a fan of Marvel and Star Wars and stuff like that. I'm not like a super fan or whatever. Like I get into it. It's entertaining. I enjoy it. It's a fantastical world, cool stories, funny little things, and I like it. So uh, I, but I'm not like I'm not a super fan. Probably not like some people get like really into it and stuff, and I can't get really into it, but I'm into it enough to where I do enjoy it and I find it fun. Anyways, Facebook had a thing of it was a clip. I think it was of I'm not sure who the guy talking was. It might have been Manly P. Hall. It was they said the source was Manly P. Hall, and he was describing that Yoda is actually Judah, and that Yoda is actually a real guy. According to this guy, Yoda was a real guy, and he really does counsel the Israeli British alliance, and that in World War II, it was the Empire striking back, which is America, and America was really the Empire Strikes Back, and they were attacking the Roman Empire's two Roman Empire powers in Europe, and they took over Europe. And so supposedly this Yoda guy is a real guy in the universe, and maybe he doesn't look exactly like Yoda, but he's a pointy-eared little man, little green guy that people listen to in the councils of Earth, and even around the galaxies and stuff like that. And so it's I don't know what to make of it, but this guy Manly P Hall, I've read about him before. I've listened to talks about him. I don't think I've listened to him talk. Maybe I have, but I used to watch this show called Red Ice on it's Red Ice Radio, and they used to have like interesting things, but then they turned totally white nationalist, and it was just so crazy. And with the gang stalking, it was like people were gang stalking me while I was listening to that, and I was like, I'm just interested in the historical narrative here. I'm not interested in the white supremacy or whatever. But I guess when I was listening to that show, I always had this thought in my head, like there's some element of like white supremacy in some of these things that I don't, like some of the elements, and you're thinking, is this really what's going on with this guy? And then later on, I think in 2000, when Trump came onto the scene, all of a sudden, this guy flipped the switch, and his whole show, like he used to have Michael Tsarian, and he used to have like he had old Demigod and like just like different guys on his show, and it was kind of interesting, and it wasn't like charged up like racial this, racial that, racial this, racial that. And he ended up becoming like a total like white nationalist. And it was a little disappointing. I had to stop listening to his show, but I did find the podcast interesting in the basically from like 2006, 2007 to about 2012, 2013. I think it's a much different show in there, even though there's probably an element where this guy was like trying to lead people. He was kind of coaxing people in and then leading them down this white nationalist path. And so, unfortunately, that was one of those things that once that started happening, I left the show. I don't watch it anymore. And so, yeah. Anyways, I listened to Manly P Hall before on about Manly P Hall on that show, so that's how I know of him. And I don't know a lot about these things. Like this is a whole esoteric field of knowledge that you don't know if it's tied into some sort of galactic empire like Star Wars or something, but according to Manly P Hall, it is. And so, yeah. So, anyways, so Yoda supposedly he's a real guy, and he does counsel the world and stuff. I don't know if he's still doing it or if he did before, if he's still alive. But yeah. Uh, all right. I got a new book called The Dream, Hakeem Olojuwon book, and it's going pretty well. I just started reading it, and it starts off describing how LeBron James went to Hakeem Olajuwon's Mega Ranch in Texas, and he learned footwork from Hakeem after losing the 2011 finals. And I actually always wonder about like brain control in that finals. I know Dallas had a great team, but that Miami team was stacked. And if I recall correctly, LeBron did not have a very good series, and I can't imagine Dallas was that good to keep him in check. So it makes me wonder about that series. But like Dallas was a pretty stacked team. They had all stars up and down their roster. They were a very underrated team. They beat so many great teams that year to get to the finals, and yeah, they were just really really good. And the Miami team though was pretty stacked team, so I can't imagine. I don't know. I still look at that series and I'm like, how did Dallas do it? And all right, anyways, but LeBron in this book, the Dream book, he's learning footwork from Hakeem Olajuwon. He spent like three days in this account. He stayed 3 particular days in Houston, uh, learning from Hakeem Olajuwon, and Hakeem Olajuwon has taught numerous NBA players footwork, and he's just known as uh, a great tactical big man, footwork and artistry, and he has a unique talent and skill set. So players flock to him. Okay, a little bit. I think I'm gonna skip this part. This next part is it's a schizophrenic reality, and it has to do with feedback on the TV, and I'll just do it really quick. But like I ate a McDonald's sandwich this morning that was left over from yesterday because I needed to eat something for breakfast. And it was actually a sausage and cheese McMuffin. And on the news about 10, 15 minutes later, they were all eating McDonald's sandwiches or were talking about egg or because the egg was missing on my sandwich. And they were all making a point like, oh, this egg, blah, blah, blah. That's just an example of like little feedback or whatever. But that, all right. I don't even want to talk about it. It's stupid. Revisit Derick Jensen basketball. Okay. Yesterday I had said that I didn't experience the same experience as Derick Jensen did with like being a white guy on a basketball court and not being welcomed. And I experienced being welcomed everywhere I went playing basketball. It's one thing I love about basketball is it's like a home to me. Is like just like being on a basketball court. Now that's not to say that I never felt like like being out of sorts like as a white guy or whatever in basketball. But I actually experienced a different way. Probably. Well, I don't want to get into it, but there's it's kind of stupid. It's a whole big thing, but it's not a big thing to me because I'll talk about it some other time. I don't want to talk about it on top of this and stuff. So, anyways, revisiting Derick Jensen, he concludes that he's writing to his friend who's like a professor or something, and the guy is describing how like yeah, it'd be great if we all could get along and find out the people who are really pitting us against each other, pitting the poor against the poor against each other. Because the guy was saying like you have to understand like if the white people control everything, they control the courts, they control the corporations, they control the media, they control the schools, and then on top of it, now you're trying to control basketball. And this made me think about Luca and Austin Reeves and uh, Jokic and stuff, and the advent of the European player in America and stuff. So now I think that's actually a little bit different because it's like in some respects they can make the sport more money because you're opening markets into Europe. So it's going to make all those NBA guys more money by expanding the talent pool and expanding the market for the sport or whatever. Like, and then they're going to China and all that. So in some respects, it's actually going to benefit people. So I don't know. It's hard to say what an NBA guy, a black NBA player, like what he thinks about what the Europeanization of American basketball, and there's been a lot of talk about it, but I don't know. What do they really think? I don't know. Maybe there's probably different opinions about it. And so, but he was saying this professor to get back into the book was saying that uh, you have to understand now white people are trying to control basketball, and this is like it's like you have to control everything, even like we're a sport that we've come to excel at, and so it's kind of I mean that is an interesting thought even of itself, and just listening to what that professor had to say and stuff. So I think it was a professor. I don't know if it was I just read it this morning. So okay, so yeah, but in talking about the Luca and NBA Europeanization of the NBA, I think we should expand the league. And they're talking about expanding into Europe, but it would be cool if we just expanded in these parts of the regular NBA. I think there's enough talent to expand. I think Mark Cuban said there was enough talent to expand. Not that he's the god of basketball, but I do think that there's enough talent to expand. It is cool to see NBA teams now as like you look at there's like 8 or 9 great players on each team or whatever. And so yeah, I think if you expand the league, you can have more European players come over and African players. The league in Africa is really cool. it's a really good league, and it's exciting to watch that as well. So I have to stop here because it's been 15 minutes. But thank you for listening. Goodbye.